It starts with applause. Not the fake kind, the real deep-chested clapping that rattles your ribs. The kind that says you matter, you made it, you belong. You're on a school parade ground, standing beside a bronze dedication plaque. You've been invited as a guest of honor, female veteran, decorated, quietly humble. There's a folded flag on your lap, a young cadet saluting you, and parents snapping photos with their phones. You give a little wave. Then you see the badge. A man moving through the crowd, plain clothes, no smile. You know the walk. Federal, military police. He nods to someone else. Another one follows. Their path is too straight to be casual. You stand, already knowing. The cadet says something. "Ma'am?" But you don't answer. One of the MPs approaches, holding a printout. You glimpse the words, "Unauthorized wear of military insignia, impersonation of special operations personnel." They read you your rights. People are filming now. Your chest is tight, but you say nothing. You let them cuff you. The flag slides from your lap to the ground. It's not the first time you've been on the receiving end of military silence. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me, where are you watching from, and what time is it where you are? They haul you into a black Suburban, take you downtown, process you like a criminal. Mugshot, fingerprints, metal chair. They say your name, first and last, but add AKA before it. They think you're fake. They believe you're another one of those YouTube clout chasers who forged documents, bought medals on eBay, and told fake war stories for views. You've seen their names too, but you're not one of them. Still, nobody listens. One officer smirks, asking if your trident is real. You don't reply. He says, "I figured," then leaves. They don't recognize your service record. Probably because it doesn't exist, at least not on any system they can pull in 10 minutes. They ask if you were ever actually deployed. You nod once. They call that uncooperative. You spend the night in a holding cell, concrete bed, fluorescent hum. You close your eyes and remember a different kind of darkness. Black water, silent air, the hum of a C-130 above, the weight of a suppressed MK-18 in your hands, and the cold confidence of the man beside you who once said, "You jump, I jump." You were always jumping into places you weren't supposed to be, but you made it out. Next morning they charge you. The local paper calls you another stolen Valor disgrace. One outlet posts a split screen, your arrest photo on one side, a real Navy SEAL team on the other. Guess which one doesn't belong? The comments get ugly. You don't read them, but someone does. Because by day 2, an email hits a secure Pentagon inbox. Subject line, "Pull classified personnel file, Dagger Echo Alpha Omega Grey Team." Recipient, Ret Admiral James Teller. He sees the name, he remembers. 3 hours later he calls the detainment office himself. "Let her go," he says, "or you'll be answering to more than an apology letter." But they don't listen at first. They need proof. So he sends it. A photo from 2008. Forward Operating Base Echo. You're standing in dusty fatigues, no rank, no name patch, just the Omega insignia and blood on your boots. In your hand, a recovered hostage. The Admiral writes one more line. "You missed one hell of a warrior." You sit in the windowless interrogation room, metal chair cold against your back. 2 agents take turns asking you the same question. Why did you lie? You don't answer. Not because you're guilty, but because you're exhausted. Because the moment you explain who you really are, you either open a file that's been locked behind redacted walls, or you put someone else's life in jeopardy. So you say nothing. The female agent leans forward, trying empathy now. "We just want to understand," she says. "You had a distinguished career, according to you. But there's no record, no DD-214, no SEAL training, nothing. Help us help you." She's trying. You can tell she wants to believe you. You want to tell her about Kosovo, about the joint mission with Task Force Orange in Tikrit, about the op outside of Marja where you didn't just earn the respect of the SEALs, you bled with them. But you can't, because everything you were part of lives under code names buried so deep. Even the Navy can't pull them up without someone's thumbprint on a locked terminal. Instead, you close your eyes and drift back. To the compound in Bagram. The air always smelled like metal and rot. Your team didn't wear name tags. You didn't take group photos. Your briefings came with code names and biometric scans. And when you did well, they didn't give medals. They gave you another mission. Grey Team wasn't for the decorated. It was for the deniable. You earned your trident not through a graduation ceremony, but because you survived the 6-month proving. That's what they called it. You were the only woman in the unit. Not officially, of course. There were no records that listed you. But everyone in that room knew you weren't there to prove anything. You were there because you were better. You remember the first time someone questioned your place. A senior operator, big, loud, brash. He laughed during hand-to-hand drills, until you broke his clavicle with a single throw. Nobody laughed after that. Now, years later in this interrogation room, you feel the weight of those silences again. Eventually, they leave you alone, but someone new walks in, not in uniform, not in a badge. He's older, white hair, sharp eyes, moves like he still does PT every morning at 600. You know who he is before he speaks. Admiral Teller. He doesn't sit, just looks at you. You're real quiet, he says. You raise an eyebrow. I remember quiet, he adds. Quiet's what saved my life in Yemen. You say nothing. He opens a leather folder and pulls out a photo. It's grainy, black and white. You and a hostage, kneeling beside an overturned truck, one hand on a radio, the other holding a sidearm. You know how many people saw this? He says. 3. Me, the president, and the handler who burned the mission log. You still don't speak. He puts the photo down, looks directly at you. I remember your call sign, he says. Rogue 6. You pulled 2 Marines out of a compound rigged to collapse, then dragged a contractor a mile uphill through a storm. You didn't ask for a medal, you asked for morphine so you could go back. Your eyes flick to his. That was you, wasn't it? You finally speak. That was me. The silence between you holds more than words. Then he sits, just breathes for a moment. Listen, he says. I'm going to get your name cleared. I'm going to drag every buried document out of that rat maze they call a database, but I need you to do one thing. You wait. Tell them who you are. You stare at the floor. You think they'll believe me? You ask. They'll have to, he says, because this time I'll be the one standing behind you. Later that day, they let you go. No apologies, just silence. The charges are dropped pending further review, but the damage is done. Your face is online. Veterans forums are arguing. Some call you a fraud. Others say check the record if you can find it. One thread stands out. I remember her. We called her Ghost Dog. She pulled me out of a blown convoy in 2010. Real one. Another user replies, no way, that op never happened. Then a third posts, doesn't mean she didn't. The next morning, you wake up to silence. No alarms, no drills, no briefings. Just the low hum of your ceiling fan and the pressure behind your eyes that hasn't left since the cuffs clicked shut. The world outside is moving again, but for you, time's stalling. Your phone buzzes. Unknown number. You pick up anyway. A voice, gravel thick with age and command. It's Teller. You sit up. They found your record, he says. Well, pieces of it. You don't ask how. You already know the Admiral burned more bridges in one day than most officers do in a lifetime. But somehow he got what he needed. Meet me at the Navy Yard, he says. There's someone you need to see. You throw on your boots, ignoring the limp in your left knee. Old injury. Morocco, 2009. Shrapnel. No medical report. Just field stitching and a scar that itches in the rain. The drive is quiet. You avoid the highways. At every red light, you glance in the mirror, half expecting someone to pull up behind you, half hoping. At the gate, the MP checks your ID. He freezes, looks up, then waves you through. That's new. Inside, you're directed to a side building, unmarked, plain brick. Teller's waiting on a bench, nursing a black coffee like it's whiskey. He stands when he sees you. No salute, just a nod. You look like hell, he says. You smirk. You should see the other guy. He leads you through a security door and down a hallway that smells like printer toner and old secrets. At the end, there's a conference room. Inside, 2 people in suits, 1 tech specialist, and a woman wearing navy fatigues with a silver device clipped to her wrist. You recognize her. Look, Commander Ann Vasquez, Intel. Used to work back channel on classified personnel logistics. You'd crossed paths in a secure op near Kandahar. She hadn't spoken a word then. She does now. We confirmed 17 missions under the Dagger Echo designation, she says. Grey Team, non-attributed operations, jointly authorized under compartmentalized command structures. All pre-2012 files were placed in deep code archives. She clicks a remote. Your face appears on the screen. Blurry, tactical gear, night vision lens distortion. But it's you. Then another image, this time in daylight. You're in a hangar with 3 other operators loading crates. 2 have beards, 1 has a prosthetic leg. These images were pulled from decommissioned ARG contractor footage, she says, which confirms your role, your assignments, and your qualifications. Then she clicks again. It's your NIL name, on a list labelled OPR Omega Grey Recovered Unit, Status Active, Classified. The tech guy looks up. You weren't erased, he says. You were hidden. You exhale, slow like you've been holding that breath for a decade. Teller leans back in his chair. We're reinstating your credentials, retroactively. You'll get your trident, your citations, the works. You shake your head. That's not why I'm here. I know, he replies, but you earned it. You step outside after the meeting. The air smells different, fresher somehow. You walk the perimeter of the yard in silence, boots tapping pavement, eyes scanning sky. Later that day, a press briefing is held. Private, small audience, no cameras. The Department of the Navy confirms the existence of long-term classified direct action units composed of specialized operators not retained in standard records. A new policy is announced for verifying unregistered service through corroborated command structure evaluations. It's bureaucratic speak for, yeah, we screwed up. But it's a start. That night, you get a call from a journalist. She's former military. You remember her from an old evac. She patched up your ribs with duct tape and gum wrappers. I want to tell your story, she says. You hesitate. She doesn't push. Instead, she says, you'd be surprised how many women have asked me if they were crazy for believing they could have done what you did. You hang up, but only after telling her, not yet. You spend the next week off the grid. You hike. You sit in silence. You visit the graves of 2 teammates buried in Arlington, headstones marked with names but no rank, no units. You leave a trident pin on each. One morning you return home and find something at your door. A box. Inside, a folded flag, your original badge, and a note. We kept it. We always knew. No name, just the Omega insignia embossed on the corner. You hold the badge for a long time. You don't cry, but you feel something move, something like belonging. You return to your old apartment and realize that even silence can hum with noise. The walls remember. The cracks in the paint, the boot scuffs on the floor, the worn edge of the table where you used to sit and clean your sidearm with a bowl of ramen beside you. Every inch speaks. But now, with the government acknowledging your record, the past is crawling out from under the floorboards like smoke. You flip through your own life like it's a classified file. Your inbox is full. Requests for interviews. Veterans writing to say, I knew there was something wrong with how they handled Grey Team. Others just curious. How did you do it? Were you really the only woman in Omega? You answer none of them. Instead, you open the box the Navy sent you. Inside, a certificate, a restored DD-214 with all your deployments listed, covert as they are, and one small velvet case. Your trident pin, cleaned and mounted. You touch it, not with awe, with gravity. You remember how you earned it, not in a ceremony, but in fire. Mission Echo. It was 2010. The op was labelled Echo Strain. Off-book, humanitarian support, they called it. You knew better. You were dropped in with 3 others. No backup, no radio relay. The objective, rescue 3 engineers taken hostage in northern Pakistan. But when you arrived, the engineers were gone, and so were the coordinates. It was a setup. An ARG-affiliated contractor had sold false intel. You and your team were bait. You remember the firefight. Not the noise, but the pauses. The space between shots. You remember dragging your teammate through mud, blood soaking through your gloves, and the man you left behind. Not by choice. You begged, screamed into the encrypted comms for evac. They didn't come. You made it out. Just you. And because it was never supposed to happen, the report said hostile environment compromise. You were debriefed, drug-tested, examined. The psychologist's notes read, disassociated but responsive, refuses medal, shows preference for solitude. They didn't mention that you stitched yourself up. Mission Echo haunted you, but it was also where you became what you were, undeniable. You were told it was the cost of silence, the cost of never being caught. Now years later you're known, visible. It feels like a double exposure, your life layered over itself. You visit the VA one afternoon, not for therapy, for clarity. You meet a social worker named Benjamin, young, clean-cut. His computer freezes twice trying to pull your case file. When he finally finds it, he scrolls and stops. He looks up. You were Echo? He asks, barely hiding his disbelief. You nod. He sits back in his chair. Damn. I studied that program. It was kind of a ghost story in policy training. You smirk. He tells you about how the VA is shifting, slowly, painfully, to acknowledge non-standard operators. There's an internal petition for recognition, grace, recompense, even public apology. But they need a face. They need you. You say you'll think about it. Instead, you drive to a shooting range on the edge of town, the place where your hands used to shake less. You load your own gear. No fanfare. The instructor, young guy, Marine vet, watches you tear a paper target to shreds at 75 feet. He nods slowly. I saw your photo online, he says. That thing with the Admiral, that was you, right? You pause. Yeah, he offers a handshake. My sister's in ROTC, he says. She printed your picture, put it on her wall. The next day you speak to a closed circle of women in the VA's high-risk PTSD program. Some cry, some stare at you like you're impossible. You talk about the silence, the pressure, the betrayal, not of enemies, but of your own chain of command. You say, you can survive betrayal. You can't survive being erased. One woman hugs you after. She doesn't say thank you. She says, you reminded me I'm not invisible. That night you sit on your porch, beer in hand, phone buzzing with new requests. The journalist calls again. She doesn't ask this time. She says, if you talk, maybe more will come forward. You say yes, not for you, for the ones who never made it back. The podcast episode goes live at 7 a.m. sharp. You don't listen to it. You don't need to. You lived it. But everyone else does. It takes less than 12 hours before the episode is trending on veteran forums, climbing the charts on Spotify. Ghost Dog Speaks becomes the top searched phrase on Reddit. Twitter turns it into a hashtag. Rogue 6 trends for a full weekend. You didn't even use your real name. But that doesn't matter anymore, because the story is real, and they know it. Clips of your voice play over montages of your recovered photo, your trident, your brief case file. Other veterans start recording videos. A woman from Texas who served in Army PSYOPs records a TikTok. She was in the room when we pulled code off a stolen hard drive. I remember her eyes. Cold, focused. She saved us. A guy from Florida claims he was the pilot on one of your insertions. I was told to delete the flight log, he says. Now I know why. Your inbox explodes. Some messages are from doubters. Angry. You're not a SEAL, they don't let women in, not in those years. Others are full of gratitude. My mom served, she died without ever getting the recognition she earned. Your story gave her honor back. You take a deep breath. Forward those messages to Teller. He calls you that night. You did what I couldn't, he says. You broke protocol for the right reasons. A week later, you're asked to appear at the Senate hearing on covert veteran recognition and benefit parity. You arrive in plain black. No ribbons, no rank, just you. Inside, lawmakers speak carefully. The hearing is subdued, not for lack of interest, but because for once they're listening. You testify without embellishment. You explain Echo, the structure, the silence. You read the names of your teammates, some listed as contractors, others as non-combatant fatalities, all of them real. When you finish, a senator from Pennsylvania leans forward and says, "You're the first person I've seen make truth sound like a threat." You smile. That's what it takes to make people listen. Outside, a crowd of veterans waits. Many of them wear patches. Some have copies of your tattoo. The Ghost Dog sigil. A few women approach, holding laminated photos. "She was like you," one says. "She was never in the books either." You start seeing ink shops post your design, not for profit, for tribute. A place in San Diego offers the Ghost Dog Trident for free to all women veterans. A national magazine runs the headline, "The Warrior They Tried to Erase." In response, the Navy releases a public statement. "We acknowledge that certain service records were redacted due to the classified nature of operations. We honor all who served under these conditions, including those whose names never appeared on rosters." It's not a full apology, but it's not silence either. The Department of Veterans Affairs establishes a new task force, recognition of non-standard combatants. Your name is listed unofficially as honorary contributor. Later that month, you get invited to a private event. Not government, not political. It's a reunion. They tell you someone wants to see you. You arrive at a small hall outside Norfolk. Inside are 12 people. All familiar. Grey team remnants. Not everyone made it, but enough. Hudson, one eye, both hands still calloused. Diaz walks with a cane, jokes like nothing's changed. The medic, Ramirez, now teaches wilderness survival in Montana. And Teller. He walks in wearing civilian clothes but holds a box in his hands. "This is overdue," he says. He opens the box. Inside, a newly minted plaque engraved with your code name, your operations, and the citation for a medal that was never awarded. The Silver Star. You look at it for a long time, then you close the box. "Let's talk later," you say. "Right now, I just want to remember." They open bottles. Someone passes around an old photo, the grainy one from Echo. You're in the middle, face blurred but unmistakably there. Ramirez grins. "Didn't think we'd make it here." You nod. "None of us did." Later that night, you step outside. The wind moves gently, no one's watching, no spotlights, just quiet. You let yourself feel it, finally. You were seen. You were believed. And the silence? It's over. You don't expect them to call you again. But they do. This time it's the Department of the Navy. They're planning a recognition ceremony, quiet, closed to the public, but with enough cameras to make the message clear. The system failed someone it should have honored long ago. They ask if you'll attend. You think about saying no. You hate ceremonies. You hate the spotlight, the speeches, the way people look at you like you're part myth, part mistake. But you say yes, not for yourself, but for every operator still erased, for every woman who trained, served, bled, and disappeared into paperless files. You choose your uniform carefully, not dress whites, not the black ops gear of your past life, just a sharp, clean-cut civilian suit, no medals pinned, no rank displayed, but one symbol rides on your wrist, a black band with a single silver trident etched into it. You walk into the hall where the event is being held. Arlington, of course. The same place you left trident pins on 2 silent stones. There's a murmur when you arrive. Faces you don't know turn to look. At the front sits Admiral Teller. Next to him, the Secretary of the Navy. They don't ask you to speak. Instead, Teller steps forward. His voice, still steady despite age, carries across the marble room. This woman's name was left off too many lists. Her record lost in redacted ink, but her story outlived the silence. And when people questioned who she was, I said what I'll say again today. You missed one hell of a warrior. Then they call you forward. You walk slow, deliberate, measured. The medal placed in your hand isn't just for you. It's for Echo, for Grey Team, for Ghost Dog. You accept it, not with a salute, but with a nod to the room behind you. In the weeks that follow, the story spreads further. Schools begin teaching the operation in military ethics classes. Articles appear in journals. The VA updates its framework for classifying shadow personnel. You're invited to join the advisory board. You agree, on one condition. You don't erase anyone ever again. The secretary agrees. You return to Phoenix, finally sleeping without checking the door twice. Your phone vibrates endlessly, but now it buzzes with purpose. Requests to speak, to lead, to tell what it means to be both forgotten and remembered. You open your messages one morning to see a photo. It's from a Navy recruit, a young woman in her final week of Boudiès training, covered in sand, eyes bloodshot but burning. She writes, "They told me I couldn't. Then I read about you. Now I'm about to graduate." Another message reads, "My brother was Ghost Dog too. Thank you for giving him back to us." You begin writing, not just reports, not just testimonies, but legacy. The quiet, deadly poetry of operations that never made the nightly news but saved lives. The media still calls you the woman they arrested by mistake. But you know better. You weren't a mistake. You were the result of their rules being too narrow for the kind of warrior you became. And you didn't fight for recognition. You fought because you were needed. Recognition is just what came after. On the anniversary of Operation Echo, you return to the mountains, alone. You build a small cairn at the base of a ridge. You carve each name into the stone with your own blade. Not perfectly, but permanent. You leave your original trident there, the one from the box. Not because you don't want it, but because it belongs to all of them, not just you. You watch the sun set, the wind runs wild, you let your eyes close, you let it all come quiet. Then just before leaving, you whisper, "They missed one hell of a warrior," and you walk back down lighter. You sit by the window, the sun soft against your skin, a stillness in your bones you've never felt before. The battles are behind you now. Not just the ones fought in Black Ops, but the ones fought in silence, in shame, in forgotten corridors of bureaucracy. You've carried the weight of erasure. You've seen what happens when life of service gets wrapped in secrecy and buried without ceremony. But now those truths walk free. Now the silence has a voice. You remember the look in the Admiral's eyes. Not pity, not pride, recognition. And that's everything. You remember the young women writing to you from bases across the world, reminding you that your presence makes space for theirs. You remember the brothers and teammates you couldn't save, but you honored. You didn't let their names disappear. That matters, so you breathe slower now. You sleep longer. When you speak, people listen, not because of medals, but because your words come from a place no medal could reach. If this story made you feel something, hope, rage, love, understanding, hold on to it, share it, remember it. There are more warriors out there still waiting to be seen, and we owe them that light.